Hi, I'm Stephanie DePasquale, the author of The Home Rookies, and today we're going to be making placemats. It's a very simple project and great if you're not very confident with your sewing skills because it's very easy. So what you want to do is you want to get some fabric that you like and cut it so that it is 12.5 inches by 16.5 inches, and you need two pieces that width or that dimension for each placemat. So then you're going to place them right sides together and match up your corners. And start by putting a pin in each of your four corners to get those held in place. I really like these flat flower head pins because they're real easy to go through. They don't add a lot of bulk when you're sewing. They're actually made for quilting, but they work well for a lot of other sewing projects as well. So once you have all your corners pinned together, then I will put 2 pins in the long side as well, and then I'm not going to put any in the short side. If you have a stretchy fabric, then you might want to consider putting a few more pins in, or if you're just not so sure that the fabric is going to stay where you want it to, then you might want to put a few more pins in too. So now I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch around the entire edge. So I have the machine already set for a 1/4 inch stitch, and I'm going to stitch in place for a few stitches because we're going to leave an opening for turning, because we're going to turn this right side out. So you're going to stitch to the edge, lift up your presser foot but leave your needle down, and then reposition the sewing machine so that the side that you need to sew next is going towards you and your needle is going to be starting at the very edge. And then you're just going to keep sewing until you go all the way around the entire placemat, but you're going to stop when you get to right about here because you want to leave about 5 inches of space open to turn. And make sure you take out your pins before you sew them, because you can break a needle if you sew over a pin and then it goes flying, and that's not good. So I have a placemat that has already been stitched here, and what you want to do is you want to clip off your corners. And when you're clipping the corners, you want to make sure that you do not, you'll have an X where your thread comes together. You want to make sure that you don't clip over that X, otherwise you're going to clip through your threads. And then you won't have a corner anymore and you'll have to redo it. So don't cut through your seams. But clipping these corners helps you get more of a point when we flip this inside out. So I have the hole that we've left here for turning, and I just put my hand through to the other side of the placemat, and then I pull it so that it all gets turned so that the right side of your fabric is now facing out. And when I do this, I kind of smooth out the big edges first, and then I use my fingertip to push that corner out and make a sharp point. And you're just going to do that for all your corners until it lays nice and flat. And I have one that is already had that done to it, and it looks like this. But we don't want to stop stitch this just yet. We've got to take it over to the iron and press it nice and flat. So I have, here's the side with the hole in it where we turned it. So I'm going to press the opposite side, short side of that first. And I'm using my fingernails here to press the seam as flat as I can here. And you want to use whatever heat setting is required by your fabric. This is cotton, so I have it on the cotton setting. And then that makes a nice crisp edge there. So once I have that edge there ready, Then I'm going to do the same thing with the top edge. And sometimes you really have to, you know, work at this to make sure that you have a nice straight seam. This fabric is kind of stiff. I use home decor fabric. It matches the curtains in my kitchen. And that's nice. It holds a crease real well, but sometimes it also means you have to fight with it a little bit. But then when you get around to this edge, I would do the bottom next. But when you get to the edge that's open, we do the exact same thing where we press it out. And then I'm kind of just putting my fingers in this opening to try to get the fabrics to fold in on their own, which they're doing. And then I'm holding that in place, and I'm going to run the iron over it to set that fold. And then I would put a pin in this as well, which I already have one in this one, which is all pressed and ready to sew. And that way it keeps these folds together where we want them to be, because the next thing we're going to do is we're going to top stitch around this whole edge. So using a 1/4 inch seam allowance again, I'm going to start just above where that hole was, and I'm going to stitch in place again. And then I just sew. And what I'm doing is I'm lining the edge of the fabric, the edge of the placemat, up with the edge of my presser foot. And that way I can have a consistent 1/4 inch seam, and that it gives it a more professional look at the top. I need to go a few more stitches. And it always helps if you can stop in sort of a needle down position with your needle down when you're turning those curves, because that helps keep your thread in line. So I'm just going to stitch around the entire top of this. And it's not a race. I'm going fast because I'm really comfortable with this, but if this is your first time sewing, feel free to go at your own pace. Got one more side left here, and then we're almost done. And now I'm getting around to where I started. So I'm just going to sew a few stitches past where I started, and then I'm going to sew in place a few more times. Then you just have to clip your threads, and your placemat, when you get to the edge, you want to keep sewing to your corner, and then sew down until you go a couple stitches beyond where you started. Back your stitches up, that locks your threads in place so that they won't unravel later on. Then you just clip your threads. Should be a thread on both sides here. And then your placemat is finished. It's ready to put a plate on, and so just make as many of those as you need for your table, and it's a very easy project.